everyone. My name is Federico, and this is Cuttle's weekly live stream. This was a request from a couple of weeks ago. Katie was asking if we could design something like this in Cuttle, and in the comments, people responded that yeah, Cuttle is like pretty good at this kind of design, and some people, like Hassan did like a couple of sketches, and then even Ralph also did one down here, which is kind of cool. It's very similar to one of these designs. But I thought I would do something a little simpler than these designs, but that would give you the tools to make your own versions of it. So yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna close this comment and close that. So I just left these here for reference so we can kind of look back at them. And I have a blank project over here, so I'm gonna just rename it. I'm gonna call it the earrings. And so the idea for these is I wanna make them about 2 inches long. So I'm gonna generally start with like a guide. So you can drag guides by clicking on the rulers over here and then bringing them down like so. There's a horizontal guide. And then you can always change the position of the guide here. So if you want to be precise, you can type 2 here, and that gives you a 2-inch guide. So I know that I want to stick here for the length of the earring. So I want to do a quick sort of introduction, or like for those of you that are familiar, a sort of recap of drawing paths with the pen tool. But don't be afraid. The pen tool is fun. You can do it. So the pen tool is like right up here. And so you can click on it. And the way it works is that anytime you click, you create an anchor or a node. They're called different things in different places. So you can like click, and every time you create one, it just gets like a line that gets stretched out like that. And you can click, and you can always end your clicking journey by clicking on the select tool. And so here we have like a sort of open path. And you can always go back to editing those paths by double clicking. So you'll see that I get all those anchors back. So let me delete that one. Another option that could happen is, that you can like close the path. So if I close the path, it's because I clicked a bunch of times, and then I go back to the first anchor anchor that I created. So you'll see that it just snaps and it closes. And so if I click select again, you'll see that with a closed path, then you can add a fill and things like that. Now let's talk about sort of quickly all the options for editing these paths. So let's create another one. So I'm gonna create just like a square. I'm gonna close it. I need to click on select, then double click into it. And so you can move paths, you can move nodes by clicking and then sort of moving them around. You could also use the arrow keys, like to move it precisely, like so. If I hold shift to move it into like bigger increments. And any anchor that you click on will have like a position here on the right-hand side that you can also move around. You could select multiples of them if you hold shift. So I selected 2 there, and if I move them, they move together. You can also select like the lines in between those anchors. So you can like click a line, and then it's gonna move that line around. So the cool thing is that you can also change the curvature of those lines. So when I hover near a line, you'll see that the cursor gets like a little line with 2 dots. And so if you click, you can sort of bend those, which is super handy. So I can like bend them out, bend them in, and that way I can create like a multitude of shapes. Additionally, you can create additional nodes. If you double click in the middle of a line, you'll see that I create another node and I can move that around. And those of you that are familiar with this, you'll see that I also get these handles that those kind of like change also the behavior of the nodes. And if you double click into an existing node, node, it will like turn it from a curvy node into a pointy node. I don't know if that's a technical term, but double click into it from curvy to pointy. All right, so super quick introduction. I'm not gonna even go that complex with the projects that we're gonna be doing. So when you drag any of the existing shapes onto the canvas, like a circle, for example, you'll notice that if I double click into it to try and edit it, I get a message down here that says to edit the anchors or nodes of the shape, do edit and convert to paths. So in order to edit, say, a circle or a square, or a rectangle, I need to convert it to paths. So I can select it and go to edit, and then there's an option down here that says convert to paths. I'm blocking it. So when you do that, you kind of change the shape in such a way that you can like double click into it, and now you get those anchors. So now this rectangle went from like a pure rectangle into a shape where I can like move the anchors around. And so that allows me to sometimes start with a shape and then like modify it, which is exactly what I'm gonna do next. So, so I wanna start with this 1-inch circle because I think the beauty of these, kind of like the elegance of some of these shapes, some of these earring shapes, is like a nice drop, a nice kind of like teardrop. And so I'm gonna show you a couple of ways of creating a teardrop. So I got my 1-inch circle. I placed it just at the 2-inch mark down here. So now I wanna convert it into paths. So I'm gonna go edit, convert to paths. So now it's a path. I can also see the anchors in a path if I click here on the inspector, and you'll see that there are like 1, 2, 3, 4 anchors on this circle now. So I wanna double click into it. I'm gonna turn the top anchor into a pointy one by double clicking into it. So as you can see now, I start getting that drop shape. And without any more changes, I'm just gonna move that anchor up using my arrow keys right now until it hits the 0 point. And I think that's like the quick way of creating a sort of like semi-elegant drop shape. I should repeat it. Maybe, did I go too fast? I hope not. I'm gonna repeat it. Grab a circle. Place it here. As you can see on the inspector, there are no nodes. It just it shows up as a circle. Let's go to edit, convert to paths. Now we can see that the circle turned into a set of anchors. Let's double click into it, turn the top one into a pointy one, and then move it up. And that's my drop shape, which is like the basic shape I want to be using. So now for turning these into an earring, I think the easy method is to change the stroke from hairline into not a hairline by clicking here. And I'm gonna leave that width, 0.1 seems kind of reasonable. Then we wanna flatten it, it's probably the easy way. So I go to modify, there's an option down here called flatten. That turns everything that's black, the stroke, into a cuttable line. So I can click here on stroke result. And then I need to add a hole to put the finding. And so I think the easy way here is to just go to modify, and there is an option here in advanced called add hole. So that will like stick a hole right on the shape, which is very convenient. And then we just need to like change the settings for that hole. So we want the placement you can select in degrees to be like 0 degrees. So at the very top, so we just type 0. And then the hole size. Moki did a little research, which is nice, on hole sizes, and on the Monarch Pine group, here we go, people have been asking about these, and Katie is super knowledgeable, and she likes to use 0.065 for the size of the hole, and also, here's another answer that she posted, she likes to use 0.065 for the hole, and then space them out from the edge by the same amount, which in our case means just making the thickness of the hole that amount. So I'm gonna go with that. This Monarch and Pine folk are very knowledgeable about these. So back here on the add hole, I'm just gonna type those dimensions. So the hole size is 0.065 inches, and the hole thickness is gonna be the same, 0.065. And that's all I need for making a simple kind of teardrop earring. I actually went ahead and cut it. This is what that looks like. So I went with this kind of like thick cardstock just because it seems like a easy way to show the shape. So this is one of those findings from Monarch Pine. I think they're super easy to use. I can like poke it in like that, and then I have like the earring. I think it's like quick and simple. All right, let's move on to the sort of next level of complexity. I'm gonna undo this one. Here we go. Well, I don't know if it's the next level of complexity, but it's another take on making a teardrop. So I'm gonna create a new component here. I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna grab a guide. I'm gonna place it at 2 inches so I know where I'm going. And so I think sometimes the teardrop can kind of turn into a leaf shape, which is kind of nice. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make a line. So from 0 to 2 inches. And I click on the select tool, gonna double click into it, and I'm just gonna bend it. Just like a simple quick bend like these. So I want to direct it so it has like a little bit of a belly, but it ends in a point. So just like a quick bend, just 2 anchors. If you could also use these handles to kind of like move it around, but I actually like grabbing it like this. So now we're gonna use a modifier. So I'm gonna click outside, and so I want it to be like perfectly symmetric. So I can use that mirror repeat. So with the path selected, I'm gonna go to modify, and then there's the mirror repeat. So the beauty of that is that it just like gives me this kind of perfect symmetry, and I can always go back and adjust it to like kind of get a nice look. So now it's easy to see now that I have the symmetry because I can like go back here and I kind of bend it a little bit to get kind of like a sort of elegant leafy shape. I think that's nice. Yeah, I think that's the shape I want. It's just like a slightly pointy leafy shape. And I'm gonna use the same trick I did before. I'm gonna change the thickness of the stroke to not be a hairline, so it has like some heft to it. I'm gonna select it, apply the flatten modifier down here. I'm gonna select stroke result over here so I see what the cut looks like. And then let's add a hole. So I'm gonna go again to modify. I need to have these selected. So I'm gonna go to modify, add hole. And I need to change those settings here. So I want the position 0 and the hole size to Katie's suggestion, 0.065, and the hole thickness to the same. We have another one. I also cut a version of these. So this is the previous one, and this is the new one. So subtle difference, but I think the little like pointiness is kind of like a cool. It's a cool look. It's a little, perhaps a little bit more elegant, but you can move it around as you see fit. Anyway, so that's two versions of a drop. Let's try another technique. I suppose if you don't feel like messing around with anchors, you could also grab yourself a drop from an emoji. So for example, I can go to the emoji picker here, search for the noun project, maybe like a drop or a teardrop. Yeah, so there is like a few to choose from here. This one is neat. So that one, let's make it 2 inches. I can like squeeze it around. Just scale it until it's like, I could just type 2 inches here. There. That's also like a nice elegant drop that you can just use right away. You could, you know, you could add the hole, I think, and you would be pretty much good to go with this drop. So that's like another quick version of it. I didn't cut one of these, so I won't show you necessarily. I'm gonna go back to my basic drop, which is the circle converted to paths. Go to edit, convert to paths, double click, pointy, stretch it. I want to be able to reuse this one, so I'm gonna call this component the drop, teardrop, just drop, because I'm gonna be using it for my next version, which is I want to add some like decoration inside of it. So I could also use that drop as a guide right here, because I know it is 2 inches. Let me place it here to sort of know what I'm doing. So next trick, we used the mirror repeat to create something before, to create like that leaf shape, but I want to add some decorations. I'm going to grab the pen tool. I'm just going to click and click to create like a simple line. Now I'm going to mirror repeat that line. So I'm going to go to mirror repeat. And now I want to create like some sort of chevron, so like scallop. So I'm going to use the next available modifier to me, which is, now that I mirror repeated that, I'm going to go to modify, and there is this one called linear repeat. So now it's repeating like to the right. So I can repeat it as many times to the right, but I wanted to repeat down. So instead of the displacement being 1 inch on the x-axis, I'm going to say 0 here, I want the displacement to be something but on the y-axis, so something like this. I could also just grab this displacement right here. I'm holding the shift key, so it's like straight up and down. So as you can see, these like duplicates it all the way down. So I can have like multiple copies of it. Maybe I want it to be a little bigger. And the nice thing about this is that I can still make changes to it. So I can like double click into the path, and then if I bend it a little bit to like kind of make it look a bit more elegant, and maybe if I make this anchor a little bit longer, I can get the look that I'm looking for. So maybe I don't need that many repetitions. I'm gonna do the same thing where like instead of a hairline thickness, I just give it some width. And now what I want to do is I want to enclose all those shapes inside of my teardrop. So I'm going to use the mask. So the way masking works is that whenever you have a shape and then you have another shape, something like this, the last shape, the one that is on top, is going to mask the existing one. So for example, let me move this drop up to the top. So now that I know that the drop is on top, so if I mask these, or apply the mask modifier, you'll see that whatever was inside of the drop remains. And that's exactly the kind of behavior I want here. Let me delete that. Let me grab the drop I created before, place it here. So I know that the drop is on top. That part is important. So I'm gonna select everything, go to modify, and there's this option called mask. So now you see that everything that is inside of the drop, it's all that remains. But in my case, I want to keep the drop because it's an important part of the design. So there is an option here that says keep mask. So now I have the drop back, but I actually want the drop to also have thickness, to have like a stroke. So let me select the drop and add that not hairline stroke. And yeah, so that way I didn't have to worry too much about like these lines going outside. I just kind of designed it and then masked it in. So let's select everything, same treatment. I'm gonna apply the flatten as the stroke result. And let's add a hole. Pro tip here, if you get tired of like typing the whole name, you can always copy it. So for example, I'm gonna go back to where I used add hole before. So if I click here, I know the add hole is selected. So I can go to edit and then copy, or just Command C or Control C on Windows. And then I get the prompt here that says copy it, add whole. So now if I go back to my other component, I can go here and go edit, paste. And he pasted it with all the settings that I had before. So if I click here, you'll see that the settings are that 0.065 inches for the size and the thickness. Sometimes you get tired of typing stuff. So yeah, that one is this one. So I'm trying to like slowly introduce you to the different modifiers. So here we used the mirror modifier. Then here we use the mirror plus the linear repeat. Now let's use another one. Let's use the rotational repeat. All right, let's go back to the desktop. Let's create another component right here. I want to create something that is about 2 inches as well. So I'm gonna grab another guide. I'm gonna make it 1 inch. You'll see why in a moment. So here's my goal. I want to create like a sort of flower-like shape. So I'm gonna use the same trick I used before, which is I'm gonna start with the pen tool, go from 0 to 1. Then I'm gonna bend it out a little bit. I double click into it, I bend it to create kind of like a leaf shape, like a kind of squat leaf shape. So I'm gonna click outside of it. Once again, I'm gonna try to do the, what do we call this one? The mirror repeat. So I can kind of like get my leaf shape in order. Oops, sorry, I don't want that anchor. You can also delete anchors. I added these by accident, but if I select the anchor and hit delete, it just kind of disappears it. So let's go back to my kind of squat leaf shape. There we go. So now I want to kind of repeat it, rotate it. So I can like select everything, go to modify, and there's this one called rotational repeat. So you can see now how I'm getting my like flower-like shape. And even though all of these are applied, I can always go back and double click onto my path and kind of change it around a little bit. I like it when it overlaps. So I'm gonna change the number of repetitions here. So let's make it like 10. So I get these lines that are crossing each other. I think that gives me like an additional kind of interesting look. I can go back here and like make sure the crossing is interesting. And I'm gonna do the same trick here. I'm gonna change the hairline stroke to have some thickness. Maybe at this point that I have some thickness, I might reconsider how these are overlapping. Maybe I want like some more space here. There we go. That's kind of like how I go about creating a sort of like mandala-like situation. The thing I wanted to replicate with this one now, I mean, if you wanted this kind of symmetric look, you can like go ahead and apply the flatten as is. But from these reference, I kind of like the way they use these. Sorry about that. I kind of like the way they use this kind of like space over here to kind of break the symmetry a little bit, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring my drop back in, something like that, and I want to, again, get the stroke to be a sort of thick line, but I want to change the fill to white on the drop, because I think that's a cool way to kind of create the sort of effect on the outside. So it kind of breaks that circular symmetry and it gives it this like extra point. I think that's kind of like what I was going for here. So you can see that the white just kind of masks or like essentially disappears what's in the back. And at this point, you know what I like? I like when this line kind of crosses itself at the point of the drop. Yeah, there we go. So I get these kind of like little triangles. And at this point, I can apply the same treatment. I can go ahead and select everything, apply that flatten. I'm gonna select the stroke result option here. So I get all the lines that get cut for that shape, and then let's add the hole. I'm gonna use the same trick here where I select add hole, then I copy it, I'm gonna use Command C, and then here I'm gonna paste it, Command V. I think I think the one I cut is a little different, but you can appreciate that each one of them is going to be a little different. But yeah, you can see I use the rotational repeat here, and then I'm kind of breaking that circular symmetry, or like extending it by adding that drop. I think it looks like for this one I use that trick where like I did the drop with like a little pointiness. So that's, you could also do that. I think that's part of the fun. I think you can like go back and play around with it. All right, so we covered so far the mirror repeat for the kind of sort of pointy leafy shape. We covered the mirror repeat plus the linear repeat. Here we did the rotational repeat. Perhaps there's a lot to play there, to play with there, but let me show you like the extra fancy one. I think this one is kind of fun. There is a longer video that Toby made doing something like this, but I'm gonna show you. So I'm gonna start with something similar. I want to, actually I don't want a guide. I want to bring my drop in to kind of see what I'm doing. So let's do the same. I'm going to start with a simple line. So I'm going to do it something like that. Then to that line, I'm going to apply the mirror repeat. So I'm going to go to modify and then mirror. I think I can hide the drop for now. So I want to give it like a, let me double click into it. I want to give it like a sort of S shape. So I'm going to make this one into a curve, something like that. And I'm going to make this one into a curve as well. So you can see that I get this kind of like swirly S. It's kind of like a fun, elegant shape. Now I want to rotate this one. So I'm going to go to modify, rotational repeat. So that way I get this kind of like pointy kind of petal-like shape. One thing I don't want is these two, one thing I want is these two to be connected. And you don't have to mess around too much with like finding the right spot, because there is a modifier that will connect those points. So I'm going to apply that one. So I'm going to select here, go to modify, and there's this one called merge paths. I'm going to select that one. And so you'll see that it make a kind of fun curlicue, because it's making an effort to connect these two dots. And you can see the connection point is kind of highlighted in red. Let me double click. I don't want the curlicue, so I'm just going to move it out. But I do want this kind of like curvy connection, because I think it's like kind of very flower-like. So yeah, you can see how the merge paths, these kind of highlighted red is the path that it created, so it would kind of connect them. It also connected the points here. You can see that it's also highlighted red. And the utility of that is that like now I can actually, to this whole thing, I could apply a fill. And it will like fill it nicely. So I get the nice connection point, and then I get the sort of ability to fill it. All right, cool. So now that I have this like kind of basic flower shape, I want to apply the sort of like mother of all repeats, which is this one called transform repeat. So transform repeat kind of does almost everything else that the others do. So like as a default here, you can see how it's doing kind of like a linear repeat. Is repeating them to the left. But it will do other kind of fancy stuff. It can like change the scale, for example. So if I change the scale, it will like scale them down as it goes. It would also change, for example, the rotation. So you can see that it will rotate them as it goes. So it's all fun stuff to play with. But what I want here is I don't want the position to be changed. So I'm gonna revert it to 0, but I do want the scale to be changed. So I get this kind of like effect that it's kind of going in. I also want this pad to have the sort of thickness. So that is too thick, but Transform Repeat has a kind of trick up its sleeve, which is it can also scale the stroke. So if I select it here, I'm gonna make it smaller. You'll see how each repetition it's getting its stroke a little bit thinner. So I can scale it a bit more. Almost done with this map. I think it's super fun to play with, so I want to finish this. So give me 1 more minute. So let's change the rotation as well. So you can like create a sort of spiral-like shape, but you could also rotate it enough that it kind of the corners kind of match up again. So that was like 30 degrees. It kind of makes sense because I have 6 repetitions. We don't have to mess too much with the math there. Let me change the scale so the points kind of touch the curvy here. And another thing is that because I applied the merge paths, that means the points don't have to be rounded. I can change the joint to be a miter. So that gives them that like pointiness, which is kind of nice. And even though I applied all these kind of transformations, I can still go back and move these around. Okay, so just to finish this one off, I'm gonna do the same trick that I did before, which is I brought my drop in, I gave it a stroke. Then I want to mask it because I just want to, I want to keep the stuff that is inside of the drop. So I'm going to go to Modify, Mask. Remember that I want to keep the mask, so I'm going to keep it here. And then I'm going to apply the Flatten modifier. Stroke result. And let's finish it off with that hole. I'm going to copy it again. So Command C, Command V. Oops, sorry, I added it to the wrong. Yeah, there we go. And that's the final one I wanted to show you. Sorry, I went a little bit over. But that's how you can get to some kind of fairly complex designs like this one. So you can sort of get a sense for how that was made. All right, cool. Sorry for going a few minutes over. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.